Hi, I'm Erin Anderson, Managing Editor of the CanFitPro magazine. Today, I'm speaking with Shawn Mozen, the man responsible for bringing kettlebell training to Canada. So welcome, Shawn, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. I was just wondering, before we get started, can you maybe tell us a little bit about your background and your role in the fitness industry?
Yeah, sure. I started off, as a kid, first with martial arts. That's how I kind of got into fitness and the idea of, doing body weight training and, all kinds of different training. And from there, became a teacher of martial arts and got interested in different ways to train so that I could prepare my athletes for competitions and for different things like that. And from there, explored all kinds of different certifications, which eventually led me to kettlebells and even to training with kettlebells in Russia. And I think because I kind of came from a background that was a little bit different than the average, fitness enthusiast, I kind of looked in different places. And that's how I ended up finding things like the kettlebell and Indian clubs and mace and those kind of things. Found them, I think, earlier than others because I was looking for different things that would support, activities that weren't necessarily the norm.
Excellent, thank you. You're also presenting at Winnipeg, our CanFitPro Winnipeg conference on April the 4th. And I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about what to expect from your session there.
What you should expect is that you're literally going to come away with your head just full of information, vibrating, packed, having seen and done things with kettlebells that you maybe didn't even think you were capable of doing and didn't even know that you wanted to do. I want with the short amount of time that I have, I want to leave everyone with a simple, mission for myself is everyone that is in that room with me is going to leave knowing more about kettlebells than they ever thought they could possibly learn, especially in such a short time. And they're going to be much better at handling a kettlebell, not only for themselves, but especially for the trainers. They're going to know a hell of a lot more about what to share with their clients.
Very cool. Wish I could be there. I love kettlebell training myself, so very interested in that. In your session, you talk about Agatsu Kettlebell Training. I'm saying that correctly? Agatsu?
Yes, perfect.
Can you tell us a little bit about this philosophy of training and how it's different from other kettlebell training?
Yeah, well, first, my overall kind of encompassing philosophy for my company, Agatsu, which, by the way, you said perfectly, is Agatsu is about beginner's mind and about self-mastery. So no matter what it is that we study, no matter what it is that we think we know, we should always approach it with a beginner's mind. So always be open to, new ways of doing things, always be open to, that there's more out there. And, that I think is great for every teacher and especially for every student. And part of the philosophy of how we train and what I teach physically around the world at seminars like the one that's coming up in Winnipeg is I train people for life. And when people say, well, what does that mean? All of these things that people do, going to the gym every day, going to the gym week after week, packing your bag, fighting through the snow. It's like, what's the point of all this? The point and the reward for all of your training should be a better, happier, healthier life. That's what you should be enjoying from your training. I don't want you to be sore and have a bad back and hurt yourself and have a bum knee. I want to make sure that you're really training for life and everything that it has to throw at you. And that, you have great endurance so that if your friend calls you up and says, hey, do you want to go for a run? You can go for a run. If you need to move and you need to, pick things up, you can, pick up this sofa with one arm and you can vacuum under it. I want people prepared for life, and I want to help create great generalists. And a generalist is really somebody who has a good balance of all these different things. And part of the overall philosophy from the company is reflected in what I teach for the kettlebell. Sometimes when you look at different kettlebell companies or people that are teaching kettlebells, they talk about styles. They say, oh, well, I do the sports style, or I do the fitness style, or things like that. But in reality, it's kind of an artificial way to separate these ideas. I mean, people that compete in kettlebell sport are very fit. If you take a kettlebell for 10 minutes and do a couple hundred snatches, it would be silly not to call that quite a fitness feat, right? Mm-hmm. So, and and then just saying, well, somebody doing circuits is just doing the fitness stuff. Well, you might be doing kettlebell circuits as a supplement to your athletic training. There's a lot of MMA fighters that I trained where I would have them do, 5 rounds of 5 minutes. These kind of circuits are great supplements. So I don't categorize what I do with the kettlebell in terms of a style. What I show people is I show them how to fill a void in their training by using this tool and also other tools. So for example, if you come to me or one of the people that's trained with me and you've been doing a lot of flexibility, maybe you're hypermobile and you kind of gravitated to doing yoga and other things, which is often the case, because we're good at it, and that's fine. We like to do things we're good at. But you have a lot of mobility and flexibility, but maybe you're not great at bracing. You're not good at getting tight. You haven't really trained that. I could show you high tension kettlebell techniques that are going to be a great place for you to fill that void in your training. On the contrary, if you've been spending a lot of time weightlifting and you've been doing a lot of maybe body weight skills like gymnastics and learning how to get tight and, working on your planche or on levers and different things, maybe you're very good at being tight, but you're not good at selective tension. You're not good at developing grace. But we could do high volume kettlebell training, like working on the technique for the snatch, and that's going to fill a different void in your training. And that's really what it is that I want to teach. I want to help build great generalists, people that have flexibility, they have endurance, they have mobility, they have tremendous strength, and all these things are present, and all these things are really beneficial to your life.
That's excellent. Actually, you make a good point about that. I think in all of this training and all this availability of everything that we have now at our fingertips in the fitness world, that training for life gets lost, right? It's about getting in there. How much weight can we lift without actually thinking about, why we're doing it? And
Course.
And that's where those injuries and the injuries and all the overtraining happens, right? And it's always
100%.
Whether it's competition with yourself or with anybody else, it becomes that go, 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 go without that real purpose of living a healthy and strong life. So
I want to have legs strong enough to, get me through my day, that I can go and do different activities and I can do all these different things. But do I need a 5 times bodyweight back squat? No, I don't need that for my life. If you want to be a specialist and you want to take your squat really far and you want to, compete against people, that's amazing. But like you said, I think a lot of time just training for life gets lost and people aren't sure what reasonable and what great goals there would be across the board in developing a wide variety of attributes.
Definitely. And as I turn 50, I get that now. I understand it all. It only took, about 40 years, but I get it. But thank you. So as kettlebells become more popular and available more readily in the gyms, as you said, at one time there wasn't really, I think when we chatted a little bit before this, there wasn't really kettlebells in a gym, and now there's so much there. What advice would you give to personal trainers when they want to incorporate this type of workout and using kettlebells in their clients' programming or even in their own?
Yeah, I think even like if we think about it for their clients, a lot of clients have tried playing with kettlebells before. They just like everything else. They try on their own. They think they're going to grab a kettlebell. They're going to learn off of the University of YouTube, and they're just going to, get a few exercises and be able to train at home. Apart from the motivation problems, what often happens is, we have more information at our fingertips than any time in history, and we should be getting smarter. But in reality, what's happening is because there's so much information available, it's very hard for the average person to discern, well, am I really listening to an expert? Is this an expert's video teaching me? Or is this just another layperson, not much more experienced than me, who has a popular YouTube channel? Sure. And so what happens is these people try to learn and do stuff at home. They end up hurting themselves. They end up not, at the worst, or at the very least, they don't get the result they wanted. So when they do finally come to the trainer, they're looking at the trainer after having already failed and maybe been very frustrated and maybe even been hurt. They're looking for help from an expert. So my advice to the trainer is really be an expert. You're there in really, to me, a teacher, a trainer, a coach. This is a service business. You're there to provide a service, and my service is to help you. I'm there because on your own, you're going to make all kinds of mistakes that I can help you avoid with my experience. So I'm here to help you. Like you asked, what am I going to do when I come to Winnipeg? Every minute that I'm in that building, I am there to be of service to anyone who wants to ask me anything. I won't leave the building until everyone's question is answered, because that's really what my job is as a teacher. I'm supposed to help you. So for trainers interested in incorporating kettlebells for themselves and for their students, become the best expert sincerely that you can be, so that the more you know, the more you can be of service to those people. And that's going to be great for you, because you're going to feel so good about sharing what you know, and knowing, like profoundly knowing, that it's really going to help them. And also your client is going to be such a happy client, because finally they're not spinning their wheels anymore. They made the decision, and they probably thought about it for a long time about getting a trainer. They made the decision to go to an expert, and they were rewarded for that by actually getting expertise that helped them. So I think that's one of the best things you can do, is you go to a certification, and not only just, it doesn't end at the certification. You go to a workshop, you go to a certification, and then you take your homework seriously, and you really polish and refine your technique. The more time you spend with a thing, the more you'll have to share about it.
And that's excellent advice. I mean, it's such a fluid and such an ever-changing industry that we constantly have to be on top of this stuff, and we have to become that expert in what we're doing, and constantly improving ourselves with our continuing education. And because again, there's so much that is happening and being added to the fitness industry on a daily basis. So yes, definitely makes sense. With kettlebells being so versatile, what would one benefit of kettlebells be that maybe regular weight training wouldn't get you? Could you maybe elaborate on that?
What's really nice about kettlebells, and has always been, when I first started to introduce them, people said, look, it's a weight. And of course, it's a free weight. It's a free weight. But one little joke I used to make is I would put a dumbbell on the floor and a kettlebell next to it. And I would ask the group, is that the same thing? And everyone would look at me and go, well, no, obviously it's not the same thing. I said, well, if it's not the same thing and you don't use it the same way, it's not going to produce exactly the same result. So yes, they're both weights, but there are some unique elements to the design of the kettlebell, and then of course to the way we do the exercises. These are compound movements, and the particular nature of the exercise really lends itself to having to master a skill and having to work on a skill. And we all know that one of the most boring things and challenging things about workouts is that if they're not mentally engaging enough, then they're not going to last. You're going to do it for a little bit, and you might even be entertained by it, and you might get some physical result because of the novelty. But you can look at it, and if I asked you, will you be doing that in a year? Most things you're going to say, probably no. But because of the nature of kettlebell exercises, just like some barbell exercises and some more complex lifts, that complexity lends itself to having more of an experience where you feel less like, oh, I have to drag myself to a workout, and more like I'm going to practice or I'm going to learn. And there's so much that you can learn with the kettlebell. It becomes exciting every time you go to train, rather than just, oh, I'm going to work out. You feel like you're doing a practice, you feel yourself improving, you feel yourself not just advance in weight, but advance in reps and advance in the quality of your technique. And I think that becomes much more mentally engaging and exciting for people. And because of that, they stick with it. And as we know, if you stick with something over time, you're going to get that result. So that's one of the great benefits with kettlebells.
That's what I find with the kettlebells. Actually, I find it very, every time I go, it's just something new, and I've been weight training for a long time, but more recently with the kettlebells, and I do find there's so much versatility, and it always feels new each and every time. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, do love that. What would be the hardest kettlebell exercise to master, would you say, if I had to ask you for one?
Everything is relative, and everyone is wired a little bit differently. So sometimes I'll think something's going to be really hard for someone, and they get it like really, really quickly. But in general, there's a fluidity to the snatch technique, and a smoothness to snatch and a clean. Some people, especially if they're very tight, they're very muscle bound, they're used to trying to overpower things. The snatch requires grace, and especially if you're going to do it well, it requires selective tension, knowing what to turn on and what to turn off. because of that, it can be quite a challenge for people to learn it. And because there's a lot of timing to learn the insert so you don't bang your forearm, anything that requires timing requires time. So that one can be quite challenging. The snatch can be quite challenging. One of the easier things to learn, and what's a good place, for people to start, right before they even get into doing swings and things like that, just learning to deadlift with the kettlebell is just a good fundamental, because it teaches the hinge. It's less intimidating than deadlifting a big barbell. The handle, especially if you have a larger kettlebell, it's in a great spot for people that are just starting out. And it's a really good, basic fundamental building block for them then to build up to doing swings. So one of the things that I always teach at every course, and I'll teach it at that workshop, is it's so important to slice things very thinly for your clients so that there's a lot of levels. There's always a beginner level, and then slightly more advanced, slightly more advanced, slightly more advanced, until we get to, something that's really quite challenging. And because the more levels that you have, the more chances there are for success for every client. There's nothing worse than going in and feeling and walking out going, oh, I can't do this. And people have such negative view of themselves when they just can't get a technique. They end up saying these horrible things like, oh, I'm horrible at this, or I'm horrible. It's like, well, you're not horrible. It's just a hard thing to do. So I always try to show trainers how you can slice this so thin that, even somebody who's really, really, really going to find it challenging, they're still going to be able to feel like, wow, I'm already on the 3rd level of this thing. I'm doing great.
Okay, very good, very good, very good. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would add to kettlebell training if there was a personal trainer or even a group fitness instructor watching that perhaps would give them that little extra bit of information, or something that you've been asked a lot in your courses that you think might be good information to share?
People always ask, they ask a lot of different things at the courses. And I think for anybody who's listening that's coming to the Winnipeg convention, also, it looks like I'm going to be at the Toronto one as well. So anybody who's coming to any of the conventions, come with questions prepared. As I said, I'm super happy to answer anything you want. And also, if you have seen kettlebells done a different way, don't be shy. Ask me why I'm teaching the way that I'm teaching. I always tell people I got a lot of hugs when I was a kid. I have fairly thick skin. I'll be okay if you question something that I'm showing you. I want everybody to understand not just how to do it, but why I do something the way that I do it. And I think that is an important thing also for all the trainers that are listening. As you go from workshop to workshop and you're presented things and you learn, don't learn just how someone says you should do something. Learn why you should do it that way.
Definitely.
And then when you understand the why, ask yourself, how does that why incorporate globally into everything I'm trying to accomplish for my fitness goals and for the goals of my client? Because maybe that why is a good why, but not based on who you train and what you're training them for. So it's very important when you approach your education, when you approach, training for yourself, you understand the how you do it, but also start really thinking about the why.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you again for chatting with me today. And just a reminder that people can catch you at the Winnipeg conference on April the 4th. And what's the name of your session? Just wanted you to say that again for everybody.
It's a kettlebell power flow. We are going to be covering basics. So don't think that you're just going to come in and we're going to go crazy with the kettlebells. I'm going to make sure that what we're going to do at the beginning part is I'm going to build everyone up, so that I'm going to check out the fundamentals. I'm going to make sure everyone in the room is as clean as they can be with their techniques. And then I'm going to show you how you can start to put these techniques together in like these wicked circuits and great flows for yourself and for your clients. It's going to be a great full body workout, and everyone is going to walk out knowing, like I said, a hell of a lot more about kettlebells than they ever thought possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with us. So encourage everybody watching to check out Winnipeg online and to get registered and to visit Shawn at a session. It sounds like it's going to be an awesome one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.